Streamlabs is spinning up to life.
That.
For the fuck's sake, Discord, why are you giving me ads? I'm literally paying you.
Because it's never enough.
Loop.
Okay, I'm hearing me and Adam fine. The guests have to pop off. Yes, they did.
Yes.
Oh, you got them? Cool.
All right.
Oh, mine's not working. Wonderful.
Your what isn't working?
Oh, for some reason my microphone thing wasn't moving, but now it is. All right, whatever. I am not awake enough to deal with this. OBS, just work.
Well, since you told it so nicely.
Yeah.
I think you missed the please.
It won't miss the hammer, though.
Okay, everything seems to be working.
Alrighty. Let's make trailer footage disappear for now. Gullix, do you have something for the top?
Sure.
All right. Is everybody ready to begin then?
All good here?
Okay.
All right. Then Gullix, you may count down when ready.
All right, we can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now make sure you find all of the fragments of silicon.
All right. Welcome to the Fragments of Silicon Daylight interviews. Up this week is Kris Vanhoutte.
Yeah.
Okay. Of Cliffa Games.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't work my I guess paying job on Fridays, so this is the big day for actually doing dev work, which is always a bit more enjoyable.
That's good. That's good. And I'm sure we'll be getting into it here in a bit, but how we like to begin things is, well, for lack of a better term, at the beginning. As in, what got you interested in video games, both on a personal level and a professional level?
Geez, I've been playing games for most of my life at this point. Kind of starting on really hacky things that I don't even remember the name of, that you plugged into your PC but weren't, or plugged into your TV but weren't actual proper consoles, just dodgy things that you could get on the side of the road. Yeah, games were very much this is what I spent all my time doing growing up. Kind of particularly relevant being RuneScape, which I sunk an insane amount of hours into. And then later, post-university, ended up, or you guys actually call it college as well, which is great. I'm in the UK at the minute. They don't call it college, they call it university, and I hate that. In Ireland, we call it university. Or we call it college, sorry.
Like,
But yeah,
there's an actual difference. University is a collection of colleges, at least over here.
so in the UK, in Ireland, they're basically the same. And it's kind of a almost more of like an elite status kind of thing where you've got places. So like the place I went to was called a college. It was called Trinity College. And after I left, they renamed themselves to Trinity College, the University of Dublin, to kind of make themselves sound better. In the UK, the difference is university is kind of the equivalent of your brain, like Stanford's, Harvard's, that level of institute, not necessarily that level of money, but that sort of education. And college is a bit more like community college, I think, in the way that it is in the US, where it's like it's not you don't necessarily get the same degree. It's kind of like a post high school thing that you can do if you don't get into university that maybe helps you get into university later. But all that to say, I went to college and did computer engineering. I worked for a very small startup, but then ended up in my first, like, say, corporate job after that, working for Jagex on Runescape, having been a player for 15 years at that point. So that was kind of the professional entryway into the games industry.
And was that something you pursued, or is that something you fell into?
Honestly, almost more of a fell into. I wanted to leave Ireland because the job market here wasn't amazing. I saw Jagex was hiring, applied to them, and then heard nothing. Like no response whatsoever. Had actually, I think, gotten to the point where I'd forgotten I'd even applied when they were like, "Hey, you should come over for an interview," and I was like, "Okay, sure, yeah." Wasn't really what I'd been focusing on. Like the games industry wasn't the goal. Put it that way. I had no particular like focus on the games industry. I was focusing on kind of honestly, I was focusing on startups in London. Cambridge was very much just, or Jagex, which are based in Cambridge, was very much just a like, oh, they're hiring. Why not like, throw a CV in there? And then it just, once they did reply 6 months later, it ended up being a very quick, yeah, sure, hop over, go to Cambridge, do an in-person interview for a whole day, and then ended up moving, I think, 2 months later, something like that. So yeah, a bit more fell into than some people's entry into games.
And yet less than some others. Like,
yeah.
Like, it actually runs a whole range, but was there any bit of surrealness to, getting a job at, the game that you spent so much of your youth playing?
It was, honestly, going in for the interview was a particularly weird thing because, so I'd never worked in a corporate job before. My only employment experience was a small startup where there was like 3 of us, and then before that doing some freelance stuff. So I didn't really have a proper concept of like how many devs work in a place. And you look at something like RuneScape, and RuneScape's at the time was like about 20 years old. It's got like, I know now, like 150,000 daily active players or something along those lines, but they'd hit like 200 million accounts at that point. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go in and there's going to be so many devs here. And the kind of, I think, weirdest thing going in that first day, or going in for that interview, was just being like, oh, there's actually not that many people working here. On the scale of things, it's I don't know the exact numbers now. At the time, it was maybe like a 300-person company in total. But the actual amount of devs are like 20-ish maybe. And you're like, how is it such a small number for the amount of things that need to happen? That was a bit weird.
Yeah. I think the answer lies in the actual characteristics of RuneScape, because RuneScape, like, for those who don't know what RuneScape is a browser-based MMORPG that was very accessible to a whole range of people. Like,
I used to play it back in my youth.
Yes, as was the case for many people.
Hmm.
But the point is, it's something that didn't require the resources of an EverQuest
Yeah.
or insert big ass MMORPG here.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
very much passed around the computer labs of your middle school, high
Yes.
school.
Hmm.
Yeah, very much the case. So yeah, going in, just had no concept really of what that sort of size would be. It was I can look at back and be like, it was a very different job interview to anything I've done since. I think there's a unique element of advantage you have if you've played the game. And if you've been playing the game for a long time, because the sort of stuff that you get asked to do in the interview or talk in the interview are things like, it's like, oh, come up with an idea. So, like in my case, I was applying for a content developer role, which is basically there's kind of like two levels of software in Jagex. You're somebody who works on engine and you use real code, and then you work on content for the game, and it's a in-house proprietary scripting language that is, let's say, not good. But that role it's quite like a startup in terms of my experience afterwards, in that like it's a very broad role. It's not just you are a developer, go develop things. You're also a writer, and you're also a researcher, and you're also not an artist, but you're an art director in some degrees. So going into that, like one of the things I had to do in my interview was like, oh, come up with an idea for a quest. So context there, if people don't know, like Runescape's one of the main appeals is this like relatively in-depth storyline and quest system they have, and it was just like, come up with an idea for a quest. And it's like, I've been playing this game for so long that I've thought about loads of things that I would love to do as a quest, or I'd love to see as a quest. So I'm like very much advantaged going into that. Yeah, I think working in the actual company, it's I think the big thing for me that was like particularly interesting is the different side you see to the player base. Because it's very easy to I think be in your like clique or your bubble when you are a player, and then you see the other side and you're like, oh my god, some of these people are so hard. Some of them are lovely, but some of them are so horrible.
Yep.
And like I've only ever worked in consumer facing roles or products, but players are above and beyond like venomous.
Some
very
can
small
be,
subset.
yeah.
So, yeah, very small subset. But it's just something I'd never seen as a player, and then I got in and was like, oh wow, this is like a real thing.
Yep. And like it's like you don't even have to like work at a video games company to see that.
Yeah.
Because the gamers, if you will, are vehemently vocal on the social media
Yeah.
about things that displease them.
Yeah, I think the big one that I was never a Reddit user until I started working there, and that was the big one where I guess a little bit of extra context there is I started in quite a general role where it was like do some bug fixes, and then I was given a project that was supposed to be with some people, and then it ended up being a solo project, which was great. And then after that, I got moved on to microtransactions, and as one can imagine, players are not particularly big fans of microtransactions. And that
So
was
they say.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, okay. Opinion-wise, they're not a big fan, even if they actually do.
Yeah,
participate.
That's the rub. They complain about it. They'll complain about it all day, but they'll still buy the things.
Yes. Yeah. So, but a particularly targeted complaint about sort of space, and so that was the point where I was on Reddit and Discord and all the socials. But also the point where my team had to be like, we'd have days where we'd release something and then have to be like, nobody's allowed to go on Reddit today. Just don't. just ignore it. Just don't open it. It's not.
Don't read the comments.
Space you want to be. Yeah. Don't read the comments. Very much like very weird. It's nothing I've experienced in any other role. That it's literally like just don't. Nope. Don't go read those comments. It's bad.
Yeah, it's very sage advice.
Yeah.
Like, because once again, I can imagine the level of horrible that things got at times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, we didn't have it the worst, which is a sad thing to say. RuneScape's got a very what's the word I want to use here?
Casual?
No, I would actually say a very like dichotomized almost player base where you've got a very open kind of I guess the like US political system is maybe like more liberal space that's there, and then you have people who will literally do like Nazi symbols in game level of like the opposite side. So like so I know a dev who wanted to run an event in game, so not actually any code, no game stuff, just a like social event in game for Pride. I think the year before I joined, yeah, and players through. So this is specifically on old school RuneScape, so they're reboot of the kind of 2012 server that they found.
I think that's like basically RuneScape 2 for people who followed RuneScape for a while.
Yes, yeah, it is RuneScape 2. Yeah, the player base threw an uproar, and there was like, again, if you're somebody who's played RuneScape a long time ago, you'd be familiar with stuff like lighting fires to create shapes, but like swastikas everywhere.
Yeah,
very much. And this particular dev got like sent death threats to the office and all sorts of very nasty stuff. And you have this kind of, it's a very small relatively speaking, a very small subset of gamers, but you do have these kind of quite far extremes of people who play this game and are very opinionated.
And unfortunately, because RuneScape's free to play, just banning them
doesn't necessarily solve any problems. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, a weird player base. Some amazing people. There's people that I interacted with when I worked there who I still like. I've started interacting with again now, working on this game. Who've just been great as kind of like early adopters / feedback. Not coming in as effectively an indie with no platform. Some amazing people. Some people who have very strong opinions that they don't want anybody else to disagree with. Maybe.
Yeah.
sounds about right. Unfortunately, I'm like, and like people are just awful sometimes.
Yes.
There's really not much more to add to that situation. Anyway, so do you still work on RuneScape?
No. So I worked on RuneScape for a year and a half. Most of that being on their microtransaction / basically it's microtransaction / live events was the team name. So it's kind of effectively the kind of like time-based events you see in WoW and stuff, or battle passy things, that sort of thing as well. And honestly, I didn't necessarily quit because of anything to do with Jagex. It was very games industry, thinking the games industry is not the tech industry. So in terms of salary and stuff, they were like, we pay great for games. And it's like, okay, but games doesn't pay great for tech. So there was like little things like that where I was like, I could be earning a lot more money as a developer, literally doing anything. But I only actually ended up quitting because I moved to London and it just wasn't feasible to commute. That was really the big thing. It's also, I think I missed working in, so yeah, my background's software, computer engineering technically is the degree name, but effectively software developer. And I missed working with stuff that's like public, open source, where you can Google a problem and find out the answer. And a kind of like painful side of RuneScape's in-house scripting languages, you have stuff there that somebody wrote 10 years ago and they've left and nobody has any idea how it works. And so you're like,
yes, the black box programs.
Yes. That is very much, and like this, when people do try to do stuff, even if it's like really great stuff and they're really great developers, stuff breaks. So like, somebody, while I was there, reworked the banking system and managed to create an infinite item bug because the banking system was jank and old and nobody
Right.
had any clue how it worked. So,
When I was learning programmed, we called this working in COBOL. That's not a joke, by the way.
Oh no, I get it. It's still fucking hilarious.
Right. Anyway.
yeah, inside Jagex is just referring it to, like, it's all just spaghetti code. Like,
Yep.
everything there is so interconnected and not it's not a nice system to be working in, especially when you've experienced working in kind of modern tech. So yeah, there was definitely a desire to kind of I guess move into technology that felt good to do the actual like day-to-day work. Also, microtransactions was not a particularly fun space to be in.
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. So, I guess the question here is, where did you move to after Jagex?
So I moved back into startups. I think I don't like corporations as a kind of space because I like to have a lot of impact and control. And I did have that in Jagex because of how small the team was, even if it is a kind of older, bigger company. So I moved back into startups. I've been a mobile app developer for 5-ish, 6 years now since then. Something like that. What is time? I don't know. Since just before COVID, so 5 years. And worked in ed tech. I currently work in health tech, I guess. But yeah, smallish scale startup. So joining places that are like 50-ish people and then staying until I want to move on somewhere else. So yeah, the leaving Jagex was kind of a I don't think I ever want to work in games again moment. Because even though I loved the team, I was just like, I don't like how these companies are necessarily run. I don't like the money that's involved here or the lack thereof. And just there was I think as passionate as I was like about Runescape, I played Runescape for 15 years or something before going into Jagex. I stopped playing when I was there and I stopped caring, and I was like, I just don't have an interest anymore. And even like after leaving, it's like such a shame because I appreciated so much more the work that went into things, but just couldn't really get back in. I've played like for 2 or 3 months at a time, twice I think since I left, but it was very much a like kill the passion kind of thing, sadly. So yeah, it was very much a no, I'm done with games. I tried games, it was fine. I think I'm done with games. So I thought.
Indeed, because, well, I suppose to fast forward a bit here, you have ended up in the indie game scene.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what precipitated that decision.
That one is more of a falling into it thing.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I'm still working my full-time job. And one of my friends got laid off towards the start of this year from their job they'd been working in for 5 years. And he's in a lucky enough position that he's able to take a bit of time off and kind of explore what he wants to do next. So back towards the start of this year, he was like, "Oh, do you want to do a game jam?" And I was like, "Sure." I kind of was. Part of it was just a. So we went to college together. He's been working in I guess medical robot device stuff. So very like specific sort of industry. And I was like, this will be cool for him to get some experience with other things. I'm not really doing much. I'll join in occasionally. I was more interested in kind of being like, yeah, I'll review your code. I'll give you like an hour a week. I'm not really planning on doing much here. We did a game jam. Didn't get the game done in time for the game jam. It was very, very casual. And then we finished that and he was like, what would you think about doing a longer term thing? And I was like, you know what? It'd be cool to make a game and release a game on Steam at some point. could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years. And if like 10 people play it, we put a game out for free, and if 10 people play it, great, fab. We've put a game out and some people were happy. Great. So again, still at that point, it was very much I think this would be great for my friend. I'm fine. Like, we live close together. It was a third person from our college involved as well. And it was kind of like very much we'll just be casual. If you have an hour or two a week, great, fab. So we're looking at kind of games that were big-ish at the time, or just games that were kind of coming out at the time. And the one that, so I don't know who brought it up, but somebody brought up Tiny Pasture, which is it's also a desktop idle game. It's a farm, I guess. You've got a farm. You've got animals on a farm. We're like, I feel like we could do this, but different and with kind of alternative concepts. And my friend who'd been laid off used to really love Dragon Warrior Monsters, if you're familiar with it, from the mid/late 90s. And
Yes.
so it's kind of
the Dragon Quest Monsters Joker on the DS.
Yeah, so this is precursor to that, but it's same company, same world basically. But then they had a breeding mechanic in it, which was like you get a dragon and you get a slime and then you get a slime dragon and you breed that with something else and you get a thing. And he was like, I really like this as a concept. I like this was something I was really interested in, and it's something that I feel is missing, and we haven't had something cool with this in games in a while. So you're like, oh, what if we could do some sort of desktop game, but it's got some sort of breeding mechanics or something. Again, still super casual at this point. We were like, we're 3 devs. I became the artist, or one of the artists, because it was like, we need some art, and who fucking cares what it looks like? Sorry, shouldn't curse. I was told to be careful with all the cursing. But yeah, it was, again, super casual at this point in time. We went for a few weeks, and then my friend was like, I feel like he was like, he feels like he's taking it a bit more serious than the rest of us, and like likes the idea of this being like an actual business. And I was like, honestly, I don't, like, we're not going to make any money off this. And then he brought out the sales that Tiny Pasture has, which at the time I think was like 400,000 units sold. And I was like, oh damn, there's a market for this. Which kind of, that was the moment this became, okay, no, actually we're making a game, and not some point we'll release something for 10 people. So that was the point that this basically became a startup. This became okay, we're putting in regular meetings, we're looking at how do we make a company. I effectively become producer at that point in time, and like, how do we keep an actual track on this? How do we get this out in a reasonable time that's not maybe 3 years from now we'll release stuff, and how do we make this successful? So yeah, a bit of I'm just casually doing something with a friend until he tells me actually we could make money from this and you could quit your job if you wanted. And then suddenly everything changes.
Well, if the winds of fate are in your favor, let's say, because to put too fine a point on it, the odds are, especially your first game isn't going to do much business.
100%. Which, like, I find it quite an interesting thing when I hear people talking about that, because I'd love to know. So I think the stat that people have is like something like 99% of games, or like close to that, don't even make back their $100 Steam fee that you need to pay to list a game.
Right.
I'm always looking at it and I'm like, I'm so curious as to like what games make up that 99%. And this is, I'm not saying we're going to be part of the 1% necessarily, but I've like learned, or I've noticed things as part of this process that I'm like, I can see why people would struggle with X, Y, Z. And I think I've got even just looking at my team and stuff, I personally have quite an advantage because of the fact that I've worked in startups. So I'm used to the kind of early business side of things where you wear a billion different hats that you are definitely not qualified to wear, and you just fucking run with it. In a way that I don't necessarily think everybody has that experience, and I'm kind of I get very curious about like what leads to that success or lack thereof with the vast majority. And saying that, 100% think that there's so much luck involved with this
In
as
my
well,
opinion, it also depends how crowded the genre is you're entering.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, if you have a hook, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just based off of the stories we get on this program, a lot of people are more on the, focusing on the development of the game rather than the business aspect. They have the same ethos. It's like, if it's a success, sure, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, they don't have the experience yet. And that really also shows in the scope of the games.
Yes, that's a big thing that I've tried to bring from startup experience, has just been like, look, you need to not allow scope creep to just take over everything and delay everything forever.
If we had a nickel every time somebody on their show was literally increasing their scope during our interview, we'd have our own office in like 3 states.
Yeah, it's I posted on Blue Sky with this thing, which was just like, we've got a tutorial window with our character, and one of the lines that's actually in the tutorial is like, I like your enthusiasm, but you need something. And I've got a like screen cap of that, which is just like, I like your enthusiasm, but no. And it's kind of a thing that I, as the like pseudo producer, have had to just come back with again and again and again, which is like, I love your creativity, I love the cool ideas you have here. We can't. We absolutely
chill,
cannot.
bro. Chill.
Yeah. It's always like, cool DLC idea, but no.
Yeah, that's another thing that's come up on our program is the passion angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people who appear on our broadcast, they really do want to make their dream game, whatever that entails, scope or time be damned.
Mm-hmm.
And
they want to pull a Cuphead, Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
What's it?
System Shock remake.
Yeah.
Like that one.
Basically, their magnum opus is what they want their first game, and I'm like, no, little buddy, you need to scope that down.
Well, they don't necessarily do that.
I know
it also does depend if somebody's wanting to do this on the regular or if they really do want to make that one game.
For friendly tip for first-time devs, don't mortgage your house to make your game.
Yes. I think that's what I find quite interesting coming from a startup background, because there's a few things that I go into the conversations with my team, for example, with a quite a different attitude, which is like, one is, I'm very sorry, but we're not going to make the game that you want to make. Like, ultimately, we are not in a position where we have, a ton of funding and infinite time, and we can make the game that you feel is perfect, is one thing. And the other thing is, I come from a place of like, the only way you succeed is if you make a product that fills the user need. Right? You need to be solving a problem for somebody. And so ultimately, what I'm kind of trying to like keep as a focus is like, we've got this core idea, and like, personally, I really like my own game. I play it myself, but we've got this core idea that we're like, we believe in this kind of like magic and kind of cute creatures as a core concept, but ultimately, what do people need from this? Like, what do we think people want from this? And do we actually need to do the XYZ extra thing that we're talking about doing because we think it's kind of cool? And ultimately, if the answer is that's not, we're definitely sure about that. It's like, maybe we will deal with that later. And like an example I can give from this is, you've actually just seen it there on the stream with the
Mm-hmm.
With the fusion there. So we've got a fusion mechanic, which is basically you put two monsters together and you get a new monster of the next tier up. And we spent a lot of time talking about the reveal animation. So when you press the button, what happens? And talking about it like you talk about like gotcha games. Like there is this part of the reason that gotcha games feel amazing is they put a huge amount of effort into, or some gotcha games, let's say, feel amazing is they put a huge amount of effort into the loot box moment, the draw moment. And even if you get something kind of shit, they really build it up. And then when you do get something that is the 5-star or the whatever it is, it feels amazing. And we were like, oh, it'd be so great to make this into a moment of joy. And I'm a big proponent of like whatever product you're using, moments of joy are super important. We were like, okay, we don't have time to go crazy with this. We've got this for now. We know we want to go back to it after our demo's out, after Next Fest. And we want to refine it and we want to improve that. And then we've watched streamers. We watched like 10, 20 streamers streaming the game. And I was like, you know what? This is never going to be a moment of joy and it's not very important at all. And like we've hyped this up as an idea, but honestly, at this point, I'm like, no, it's perfectly good enough. It satisfies the need that it needs to be there for, but it isn't the thing we thought it was going to be. And there's no world where it's worth our time in making this into a big moment of joy, because that's not what players are here for ultimately. So that's just a very specific example of like a lot of things where you're like, as a dev, I think this is a great, cool idea, and it's like, but do players actually want that? And if not, do we need to make that? Because it's not ultimately, if we wanted to be a financial success, either we get really lucky because we make a game that we love that everybody loves, or we make a game that we don't necessarily think has got everything we ever wanted in it, but actually does exactly what a player wants. And that's kind of the two sides.
Okay. And I suppose the question I have is, well, what did you end up answering your own question with? As in, you said this game has to fill a need. What was the need that you think this game is going to fill in the marketplace?
So I don't know if there's a great way to distill this down to a single thing. I guess the core thing that said there was a need to me was when we started looking at the numbers. So first of all, these sorts of games are not necessarily new, but in terms of this becoming a like more popular genre, that's relatively new. So Rusty's Retirement came out last year. It's done absolutely amazingly. Tiny Pasture came out at the start of this year. Tiny Pasture was in the February Next Fest, and I think I counted, and they maybe had like 10-ish people in this genre. So idle, bottom of the screen, desktop sitter game that you can play at the same time as other stuff. But they've got crazy numbers. And it's like, okay, clearly there are people who like this. Clearly there are people who like this a lot. But you don't have a lot of choice. And in playing some of these other games, I was like, I as a player don't like some of this stuff. I really dislike some of this stuff. So like, I think Tiny Pasture did an amazing job with the art. They also require you to clean up poop from animals and keep the animals fed. And I'm like, that's such an irritating mechanic to me. And to the other people I've shown this game to, and we're like, their trailer looks amazing, but I hate their first half hour. And I hate that I have to get rid of, if you've not played Tiny Pasture, basically you unlock new animals by having 10 of them, for example. And then you get rid of your 10 so you can get 10 of the next one so that you can unlock the next thing. It's kind of like, I can't grow an attachment to these. I have to constantly get rid of stuff. Lots of just mechanics that bothered me as a person. I was like, I can see why this appeals to people. They like having something on their screen. They like having something cute, wholesome, that they don't have to spend a huge amount of effort on at all times, that just is there. So clearly people want this. Clearly there's not a lot here. What can we do that is different in terms of being able to stand out, but doesn't decide to add a load of stuff that isn't the core of what is here? So yeah, all that to say, the need that I established there was like, a desktop idle sitter is clearly a market that people want from the sales that these are getting and the popularity these are getting. What we need beyond that really was just like, how simple can we keep this that still feels slightly meaningful? So there's still a sense of exploration and discovery, but isn't just being like, let's add 100 mechanics from other games that have nothing to do with this. That then fundamentally breaks the whole idea of you don't have to engage constantly. You don't have to be the big gamer person to play this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does make sense, and is generally good advice. You keep it to your core concepts.
Yeah.
And how does the monster collecting work in this game?
So we've got two effectively time-locked mechanics. One which is just a straight-up timer. So you get your base monsters, which is what you can see on screen right now, the summon. You can start off by summoning 3, and you can summon another one every 5 minutes. They're effectively your cannon fodder. They are the root of the tree that everything builds upon. So you're going to have a lot more of those base ones, and then you use them up to make the ones above. The fusion tree is then it's split by layers, so you've got, or by tier, we call it tiers in it. So you've got all of the ones you can summon. There's 3 at the minute in the demo, and they're tier 1. And you can fuse any tier 1 with any other tier 1, and that makes a tier 2. And then you can fuse any tier 2 with any other tier 2, and that makes a tier 3, and so on all the way down. So you get new ones by summoning, and you make new ones by fusing the ones you've summoned.
Yeah, I remember that from not just Dragon Quest monsters, but like Monster Rancher, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei. It is a popular mechanic in certain circles.
Yeah,
and
it was very much trying to build on that kind of legacy, almost, I guess, in terms of kind of giving you the big thing we wanted from it was giving you a sense of exploration. So it wasn't just a case of do X thing, or like have 10 of these, get 10 of the next thing. Have 10 of these, get 10 of the next thing. It's like you have to figure out what makes what and how you want to do that.
Right. Now, trying to figure out the best way to frame this question, because, in those games, what you were basically engaging in was a digital form of animal husbandry. You were basically picking out the best genetic traits of 2 creatures in order to make the maximally efficient offspring for use in battle.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what the conceit here is for that kind of mechanical thinking. As in, do you have to pay attention to stats and such when combining creatures?
So this was a big point of contention almost in the team quite early on, because we were inspired by these games, and this idea of traits or stats and like what you do with the creatures after you've made them was this like big discussion point, because we quite early on we talked about this being effectively like a battle simulator. So you make like we had ideas about like, oh, you fuse a dragon with some water thing, and then it has water and fire traits, and then it's good in these scenarios, and you send it off on little quests. And quests was a big thing in the very early points of like, oh, we're going to have some sort of thing that you can assign your creatures to go a place and get you a resource or something. So that was very much the starting discussion of what this was going to look like. I think what ended up happening was we started playtesting before we even had that, and ultimately with the people we were playtesting with, a lot of them were just kind of like happy with the discovery, and that was all they needed. And the idea of adding much more complexity to what you to think about just wasn't what they wanted. And obviously we've a relatively biased sample size by virtue of the fact that we're doing playtests internally, but that was just kind of something that came up quite early on, was like the simplicity of I can think a little bit in terms of so you can kind of see there when you fuse at the very bottom of the screen, there's rarity chances. So you have to think a little bit about, like, do I want to fuse my rarity 1 with a rarity 5, even though I might lose that? There's things about ultimately, you don't have to think about this terribly at the minute, but it's like higher rarities get you more mana. Do you want to have and then mana is our resource for spending effectively. Like, which do you want to have on the screen? But ultimately, the kind of core of why people were enjoying it in the playtest was, I've got cute things on my screen and I get to discover new cute things. Ultimately, and whatever way that worked for people. So we had a playtester in our first one. So we've got 3 family lines, and then you've got mixes of any 2 of those. So it's like we've got fauna, which is almost basically dragons and spirits. And one of our playtesters just wanted dragons. That was all he was interested in. Was just, he didn't engage with anything else. He just wanted to make the perfect dragons. That's all he did. So yeah, well, when we actually put it in front of people, it's like, actually people want the simplicity here. They like the simplicity here, especially if they're not treating this as their like focus game. So this is a big thing we have, obviously different with something like Dragon Warrior Monsters, is you're playing, that's the only thing you're playing, right? That's the only thing you're doing. And when we threw this at playtesters, it was like, oh, I leave this playing while I'm working. Or quite a few of the people in our playtesting group were people with ADHD. And so I had people being like, oh, this helps me work on my PhD because I find it hard to focus, but if I've got a thing to click every so often, it kind of keeps me engaged. Or playing Dungeons and Dragons, the same thing. It's like, it keeps me engaged because it's just a little thing to do, but I don't have to focus solely on this. So yeah, that ended up shifting the discussion a bit from, do we need something more complex? Or is this actually hitting effectively the target market we want, which is it's the person who is doing other things, or the entry gamer, ultimately, I think is a good way of phrasing it. So it's people who don't game, who think they can't game, who aren't really interested in gaming, but this gives them that little bit of fun engagement exploration without requiring them to be a, I don't know, what am I, 70-hour gamer of Clair Obscure? Or the people who are like, I want to do this and other things. So I've had anecdotally very interesting experience of sharing it in my work chat and somebody messaging me being like they're addicted to it, who does not play games, who downloaded and installed Steam to like support and then ended up playing for hours and hours and hours. So yeah, it was a question of, do we need anything more complicated? It doesn't seem like we do for that core player base. So therefore,
that's actually about what I expected, because I think you did touch upon it briefly, because you made an idle game as opposed to an auto battler, which is kind of a cousin, but it's also something that engages in what they call the meta. The battles are all auto, but you still have to plan out the strategies beforehand, which means you have to put some thought into it. That's not to denigrate idle games, but the reason why they're so popular is they're very one click and you're done.
Yeah.
So you probably made the right choice there. Now, there is another branch here that's, especially with the route you've gone down, as if not more important, and that's accessorizing. Because, because games of this nature, people will be wanting to accessorize either with actual items or that in the genetic code. So how did you approach that?
So that does not exist in our demo. That is basically all of the we've got 2 feature sets, I guess, that we're working on between now and release. One is Twitch integration stuff, which is hopefully coming out in the next little while, which is just allowing your chat to interact with the game effectively, which is just something we kind of hadn't really planned for, but we got quite a few small streamers streaming us during Next Fest, and it was like, actually, we could make something for these people that doesn't require too much work, but actually allows them to kind of keep this here. So that's one feature set. The main feature set is what we've called the research tab, which is upgrades and unlocks, so stuff to make playing the game a bit faster, increasing your chances of higher rarities, so you're not just relying on random chance there, and then cosmetics. And cosmetics is the big one. So yeah, we're very aware that accessorizing, as you phrased it, is super duper important. We didn't do it for demo for kind of two reasons. One is we wanted to really validate the inobtrusiveness of this game. So what I mean by that is, I actually know you did a review for Whimside a few days ago.
Yes.
And Whimside, I think, does what is kind of the norm for a lot of these games, which is they take up 20% of your screen real estate at the bottom. And one of the things that we wanted to really focus on as a key when we were starting this was like, we want click-through. We do not want this getting in the way. I want you to be able to use Discord. I want you to be able to code to whatever the hell you're doing, without having to kind of move your window all around to accommodate that. So we wanted to validate, like, do people like that? And how can we kind of keep that as a key focus when we are then exploring accessorizing? So the plan, we'll see how this goes at the minute, is accessorizing is going to take two kind of spins. One is, so we've got our like witch character that lives, it's effectively our menu, is our witch character that lives in the bottom right at the minute, but we're going to allow you to flip that around. So it's outfits for the witch character, which will be related to the creatures that you can make. And then effectively, I think we're calling it decorations for now, which is just nice things that you can stick on your screen to make your screen look nicer, effectively. But yes, very big focus for us. That is kind of, I think, ultimately the longer term appeal in some ways. It depends on the sort of player. I think a huge amount of this player base, as you pointed out, accessorizing is their thing. If you are somebody who's a collector / completionist, the game actually takes a very long time to complete if you're into that too. But yeah, the accessorizing is very much a high focus of the rest of the feature set.
That's very much other tropes of the idle genre.
Yeah.
Like, I know people who have logged in thousands of hours into idle games in order to complete the whole thing. Like,
that's a big fun part of this, is the balancing sheet I have for this is more maths than I've done since I left university, and this is not a complicated game, so I have no idea how people well, I know how people balance. I worked in RuneScape, but like the balancing for games is something that I think people do not appreciate how much work goes into.
Oh no, people outside of the industry think this is all just black magic.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, and I guess to them it might as well be. Like, now, I suppose another question that's especially important in terms of accessories and cosmetics is, are they going to be free or are they going to be microtransactions?
Oh no, fully free. So we TBD on exactly how the stuff. So free, you pay for it with mana. So accessories are honestly part of it. They're a mana sink. So you, at the minute, you can generate quite a lot of mana. There's some balancing required for that in the longer term game, but functionally, the currency you build up is used for cosmetics. That's it. So the game, we'll see about the exact pricing. The preliminary pricing is £4.99, which I think works out as $6 something. I'm not sure whatever Steam converted that to. But we're going to be in that rough range. And then my hope is basically, and this obviously depends on whether people actually buy the game when we release, is we've got a feature set that I've kind of tried to be quite locked in on in terms of what we want for release. There are other things that we know we would like to add that we would love to do as just free release stuff post that. And then in the longer term, we're thinking about like small scale cheap DLCs to effectively just increase the creature count. Because that's the most expensive part from our point. We outsource our animations. So that one would be a nice addition. But yeah, so no microtransactions, absolutely not. Keeping it hopefully relatively cheap compared to the amount of hours you can get out of it, and then DLC being quite cheap again as well. But hopefully significantly increasing the amount of routes you can go down in terms of your fusing.
I suppose that leads us to ask, how long has the game been in development, and how much more development do you think it needs?
So you know what? I can actually find out exactly because I'm working on a pitch deck to publishers right now. So we started development in May. So that is 6-ish months ago. Yeah. And hoping, so the release date's going to be, the release is Q1 2026. In terms of actually when that releases, the deciding factor is going to be twofold. It's nothing to do with development. It is a question of, can we get the wish lists to the number we want? And if we are getting a publisher on board, does the publisher have any specific desire for when that's going to be? So yeah, not really a development. The development time-wise left, it's like a month-ish for the features that are left, given we're mostly all part-time working on this. And then a month-ish of polish, and then anything after that is just more and more polish. Kind of more restrictive timeline stuff is actually art, animation, and then localization, which are kind of all, unfortunately, a bit of a waterfall-y situation, as our animation requires our art to be done, and our localization requires our writing to be done. So you don't really see much of it in the trailer, but every familiar has effectively a Pokedex entry. And so we kind of need the art for those before we can write the Pokedex entries, which then need to go to localization company to get translated. So yeah, development-wise, not a huge amount of time. Other side, also not a terribly huge amount of time. And then ultimately it's like, what date makes the most sense for the highest chance of success?
Right. And is there a particular reason why you're seeking a publisher on this?
Yes. So a lot of the games that we're looking at in this genre are highly successful in China. And what I have learned as part-time marketer is that marketing in China is really hard. Honestly, yeah, that's what I've learned. We've done a little bit of paid marketing in the US that's been really successful for us. We have some organic stuff in China, but ultimately, I think we would have a much higher chance of success overall if we can get a publisher on board that has expertise in China and also Japan and Korea as kind of secondary markets there. So that's really it. If we don't get a publisher on board, we work with what we can. But it's really just a case of I put the work in to get onto most of China's bigger social media sites, but I have no idea how they work ultimately. And so I know kind of where stuff should be, but like how you engage is just something that I have no experience with, and like I'm good at learning stuff on the fly, but I'm not that good. So that's ultimately it. It's just a case of, I think having somebody with the expertise here would potentially allow us to do a huge amount better than we can do ourselves as an entirely English-speaking team that's based in the UK and Canada. Or Ireland, the UK and Canada.
I mean, that certainly makes sense. Not the least of which is it's probably a good idea if you're going to expand to those markets to have not just marketing but localization.
So we're already localized actually into 10 different languages. That's something we were like, this is mandatory out of the box.
Right.
So we are localized into Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Russian.
Mhm.
Again, it was kind of I have no idea really in terms of the target market there. It's just the Steam percentage there is really high. Brazilian Portuguese, Spanish, and then kind of other stuff that's just vaguely in our network. So I'm half Belgian, so my dad's able to do Dutch, and I have a friend who does the French and stuff like that. But yeah, localization was a mandatory before we even had any other plans. We were like, no, we know we need this in Chinese at least if we're going to have any chance of success there. But yeah, having that expertise beyond not just the marketing, it's like the advice as well in those markets.
And also, given the markets that you're targeting, have you given consideration to a mobile version?
So that is a very interesting question. Yes, I would. So my background for the last 5 years is mobile. What I would love to be able to do is do a mobile version of this where the creatures, as opposed to sitting on the bottom of your computer, actually just live on your home screen, which is something I can do. I just need time. So honestly, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, if this is successful enough that I can like justify spending that more time on it, I would love to do mobile. Yes, but we shall see.
Fair enough. Right then. So I think I've run through my gamut of questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think
Alex
Gulix, sorry, went to work.
Yeah. Just he didn't signal. Like usually he says he's heading off. Anyway. Well, with that in mind, so Kris, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today to talk about your game. It's been very illuminating, wonderful conversation and all that, and we look forward to seeing your game get out there, and hopefully it's a success. Anyway, so the game is Familiar Findings. It has a demo on Steam right now. So if you wish to engage in a bit of pre-release playing, you can do so. I suppose one more question, is the progress you accumulate in the demo transferable to the main game?
At the minute, the plan is yes. We're building our save and our settings files with migrations in mind. So yes is the goal. The only reason that would change is if we, one, dramatically change the balancing, which is not really the plan, and two is if we change the kind of early structure of the fusion tree, which again is not the plan. Ideally, what we want to do is actually just leave the demo up permanently. So even post-release, you can play the demo. And a lot of the kind of smaller quality of life stuff we're doing, the Twitch stuff we're doing, is actually going into demo first. So we're kind of, the demo's effectively, hopefully, going to be pretty much just the smaller version of the game. And the main thing you get with the move to the paid version is access to the unlocks, cosmetics, and then the broader fusion tree. But yeah, the goal is transferable save file, hopefully, and we are building the tech with that in mind.
Okay. So yeah, the game is going to be £4.99, or sorry, £4.99, about $7 US dollars. So be sure to go and wishlist it today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Indeed. So yeah, that'll bring us to the end of another episode of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to tune in next time for the Sunday reviews. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.